Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope that all of you that celebrate are having a wonderful Christmas. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ty, and today in this video, I'm going to be ranking every single Christmas movie that I've ever seen from the start of my life all the way up to this point at the ripe age of 22 years old. Now listen, just to be a little bit clear here, okay? I'm only going to be talking about movies that are Christmas focused and that are centered on Christmas. So if there's movies that are kind of, toss-ups on whether or not they're Christmas movies, I'm not going to be including them. I'm including legitimate Christmas movies. So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone won't be on here, even though there's like a little Christmas segment, and even some other Christmas adjacent movies are not going to be on here. Purely Christmas focused, and I've got 16 films that we're going to be talking about today. I've got my Coca-Cola holiday Christmas sweater, and I am ready to talk about these films. So let's take it over to the tier list here, because that's always the best format to rank things, and that's just how we do it on this channel. Listen, I don't want to waste any time. We're keeping things pretty simple today. We've got A, B, C, D, and F, because E is not a grade, right? Let's just be realistic. Listen, before I dive into this tier list, I need you guys down in the comments below to comment your top 3 Christmas movies. Let's keep this very simple, very clean. Give me your top 3. Let me hear it. Let's talk about it. But let's get into this tier list. First of all, we're starting off with Jingle All the Way. I'm going to be honest, by the way, this is just in complete random order. And again, yeah, these are just any films that I've seen throughout my entire life. Even if I haven't seen them in 10 years, or if I literally just watched them, it doesn't matter. If I've seen the film, it's on this list. We're starting off with Jingle All the Way, an Arnold Schwarzenegger flick that we've got here. I absolutely love this movie, and this is a staple for my family. I can quote this movie. I could see why some people don't like it, because this film doesn't really play to Arnold's strengths as an actor, but in a way, I feel like it makes it so ironically funny. This is easily going in B for me, and that might seem kind of crazy. I think it might go towards like the middle or the back of B, but this is a classic. You've got Jake Lloyd in here, by the way, as well, who plays Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace, but this is a super solid Christmas flick. There are just so many quotable lines. I just like the way that this father, who isn't really, a great father, is chasing down this toy that his son desperately wants, Turbo Man. And by the end, the way that things play out with the mailman that's played by Sinbad, just super awesome, man. I love Arnold, and I think that this is one of his better roles, honestly, because it's just a hilarious movie. Next up, we've got Fred Claus. Now we're kind of going into territory on movies that I haven't seen in a while. Fred Claus is going to go in C. I'm a big Vince Vaughn guy. I could maybe understand why some people don't love him. I think he's one of my favorite comedic actors, honestly, ever. I love him. I wish he was in even more stuff, but I get it. He's not really super old now, but he's definitely getting older. I think that the way that they kind of show, Santa Claus kind of has like a brother, and the way that they show this power dynamic of like, the parents kind of have favorites. They really like Santa as, their son rather than Fred Claus, played by Vince Vaughn. Just a bunch of really funny hijinks here with the North Pole. There's also like the elf that, Vince Vaughn's trying to help kind of with like dating advice. He's trying to be his wingman. I think this is a super enjoyable Christmas movie. Moving on to the next movie that we've got here, it's going to be Krampus. This is a movie that I have not seen since it came out in theaters. I saw this in theaters in like 2015, and I remember enjoying it. So yeah, this is like a movie I literally have not seen in basically a decade. Well, you could say a decade in the next couple of days, which is honestly pretty crazy to say. I can't believe 2025 is almost here, but that's a conversation for another day. Krampus is going in C. I'm going to put it behind Fred Claus because I remember a lot more about Fred Claus, but at the end of the day, again, super enjoyable horror flick. I remember Adam Scott's in here, I believe, and I think that just like the concept overall and the creature design and the kills were pretty brutal, and there's just a lot of interesting creative things that go on in this movie, especially with kind of like the twist ending. That's one thing that's definitely stuck with me for a while. Next up, we've got Rudolph, like the original film. You guys might hate me for this, but this movie's going in D. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've never been like the biggest fan of Rudolph because when I was a kid, this movie kind of creeped me out. Like I watched it pretty often. Again, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but I definitely remember it. This film just has like this sense of dread to it, in my opinion, when Rudolph's like all by himself on like the island of misfit toys. Is that what it's called? This movie creeps me out. It gives me the creeps. I think the animation, it's not like it's outdated because it's a very impressive film, especially for its time. But this movie creeps me out. I'm going to be real. Rudolph, iconic character. I respect, I don't like hate this movie or anything. I just don't want to watch this movie because I'm going to get like the shivers, basically. I'm going to get like chills down my entire body. Next up, we've got Red 1. This might sound sacrilegious, but I'm actually putting Red 1 in the D category, but above Rudolph. I'm going to be real. I honestly did not think Red 1 was as bad as people were saying. I usually hate these like slop Netflix type of films that, streaming movies that are just super expensive and just put a bunch of great actors in there. but I thought there was a lot of fun to be had with this movie. I feel like I have a natural bias towards Christmas films. Yes, this is one of the worst Christmas films that I've ever seen in my life, but even the bad Christmas movies, I usually tend to, get some enjoyment out of. I like The Rock in here. I feel like Chris Evans was having a really fun time in this role that he had. Again, we're trying to build out this unique world, which I think might have been the best aspect of it, even if we didn't get to explore too much, but yeah, either way, super enjoyable. Next up's going to be Elf. Listen, Elf, without question, is going to be our first A-tier movie. Elf is truly one of the all-time great Christmas films. There's no denying that. This is arguably Will Ferrell's best role, and that's saying a lot, especially because Will Ferrell is one of the greatest comedic actors of our time, of all time, you could actually say. Him in this role, it's truly an all-time performance. And I know that a lot of people like to say that about, Oscar roles and dramatic roles, but he's really putting the work in here. You've also got James Caan, may he rest in peace, with a really, really hilarious angry dad role. The workaholic father who doesn't really spend time with his family, and the way that he kind of overcomes that, and he witnesses the Christmas cheer. Some of the jokes in this movie are some of the funniest jokes ever. I honestly annoy my family and my girlfriend whenever it's Christmas time, or actually just throughout the entire year. Whenever a restaurant says, world's best coffee or whatever, I always feel the need to just say, congratulations, because I'm always going to be quoting this movie. That's one of my favorite movie jokes ever. I'm sorry, it's just so clever and so funny. Next up's going to be Last Christmas. This is a bit of a smaller film. Emilia Clarke's in here, though. This is going in B for me. This is going in the back of B. Listen, if you guys need one recommendation from this entire video, please go watch this movie. It's kind of a play on the song Last Christmas, which, by the way, is the best Christmas song. I love this film. It's really clever. It's really creative. It has a lot of twists and turns, and it's very emotional. Seriously, if I had to give you one recommendation, I would definitely recommend this movie. It's kind of like a Hallmark streaming movie, but honestly, I do think there is some creative merit there, and again, it's really enjoyable, it's really heartfelt, and it's very uplifting and sad at the same time, but yeah, I would totally recommend watching this one. It's very under the radar. Next up, we've got Feast of the Seven Fishes. This features Skylar Gisondo. I don't know how to say his name. He's playing, Jimmy Olsen in the new Superman movie. This is the worst Christmas movie I've ever seen. I hate to be a hater on a Christmas movie. This is easily one of the worst Christmas movies I've ever seen. I remember just sitting through this, waiting for it to be over. It was quite the painful watch, and I think I watched it, just last year. It's really bad, really, really bad. The only shining light is in here is going to be Skylar himself, because he's charming, but the rest of the cast and the story, I remember being a tough time to get through. Next up is going to be Love Hard. This is another streaming type of movie that I actually kind of enjoy. I'm going to put it right here in the middle. This is another one. I feel like I watch a lot of these because my girlfriend makes me, but I usually end up enjoying these streaming type of Hallmark films. I've seen a bunch of other ones, but I couldn't even remember them to put them on this list, honestly. Love Hard, though, it's a little play on Die Hard, kind of like that Christmas vibe. I've got to say, it's pretty enjoyable. I'd also recommend this one. Is it, super funny? No, I don't think it's the most insanely hilarious film ever, especially Christmas movies. But I've got to say, the plot in here, I don't really want to give it away, but again, it's kind of clever. You're like, oh, I kind of see what they're doing here, almost like a little catfish story. It's pretty hilarious. You've got some comedians in here. I'm trying to remember the exact cast, but I can't really off the dome. But either way, right now, Love Hard's going to go in the middle of C. And C really isn't bad. I think C's I would definitely watch these movies at any time, Especially because this is a Christmas list. I love most Christmas movies, Let's just be realistic here. So even the C movies, I really enjoy these films in comparison to other tier lists where C movies I think are probably pretty mid. Next up's going to be Home Alone, the greatest Christmas movie of all time. Let's not get it twisted here, fellas. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Home Alone, everyone knows it. Everyone's seen it countless times. This probably isn't my most watched Christmas movie. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Home Alone was one that I definitely watched occasionally as I grew up, and the older I get, the more I appreciate this film. One thing that I want to make clear about this movie, because I just rewatched it this holiday season, so I do have a bit of recency bias, but either way, it doesn't really matter. I think it's just more that it's just fresh on my mind. You've got the villains in here, right? And whenever you ask someone about Home Alone and, how great it is, they say, yeah, that's the movie where the kid sets up the traps and, they kind of beat up on these villains. And by the way, it's super hilarious to watch Kevin just absolutely basically physically torture these adult males. Joe Pesci is so funny in this, but this movie is so good, even before that trap sequence. You know, the traps and all the gadgets that he tries to evade these robbers with. That's like the last, 15, 20 minutes of the movie. But the first hour and a half of this film is so good and heartwarming, even without what you could say is the best sequence of the movie. This movie for me is already like a 9 out of 10, even before, basically, again, like I said, the best part of the movie. It's such a heartwarming film, especially with the neighbor and the conversation that they have in the church. I love Macaulay Culkin in here. I get you could say, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief that they'd really leave this kid at home, but they actually do a pretty good job of making it believable. Like, you could really see this happening because, they're doing the head count and they do count the correct amount of people. And, there's so many kids. It all kind of lines up and things kind of do make sense. I think that this is the greatest Christmas movie ever. Next up, we got The Holdovers. This is sort of, your modern classic. This movie came out last year. This movie's going to go in B. For now, I'm going to put it right, I'd say in the middle of B, because even though I do have more appreciation for this movie, The Holdovers is definitely a better film. And I think that once I rewatch this movie, because I only saw it once last year, it'll definitely shoot up this list. Everyone's talking about this film. Paul Giamatti and Dominic Sessa just playing off of each other. The angry teacher that has to unfortunately watch, the troubled student, but they kind of bond together and they learn to grow together through their loneliness and through their personal struggles. I really resonated with this movie, honestly. I feel like I was really able to relate to it. Not, the direct things that they're talking about, but just kind of like the lonely feeling that you could have sometimes during the holiday season. Even if you do have family that you're close with, it can just be tough sometimes, honestly, especially because it's the winter, it's cold. You guys get it. It's like the depressing time of the year, outside of the holidays, of course. But I've got to say, The Holdovers, modern classic. This is one that, you're going to want to recommend to people, and I think that they're going to like. Next up's going to be Home Alone 2. It's another all-timer. It's going in A. Now listen, Elf and Home Alone 2, both New York stories. I think I'm going to put Home Alone 2 behind Elf because of the fact that my biggest problem with Home Alone 2 is that it honestly, beat for beat, repeats exactly what happened in the first movie. The same jokes, the same gags, the same plot. It's just in New York. But, well, when we're talking about in comparison to the entire world, I am pretty much local to New York. I'm not in New York, but I'm very local, we'll just say. And I love this city. It's my favorite city in the whole world. I am naturally biased towards that. I have no problem saying that. I was born in New York, but I've got to say, New York, you give me the New York setting instead of Chicago, I'm going to love this movie. I mean, I adore this film. The Plaza Hotel, you've got, Tim Curry in here just killing it as, a little hotel guard who's kind of sassy. You've also got Rob Schneider in, a little role in here, too, as, the butler kind of guy. It's just classic. Yes, it's repeating the same exact gags and the same exact plot of the first movie, down to the structure and down to the emotional moments. It's literally the same film. It's kind of crazy because I watched them within a couple days of each other and I was like, this is kind of the same movie, but it just takes place in New York. But it doesn't matter. It's phenomenal. I think they did just enough to still keep this a classic without following it too closely and being too parallel, because the New York element really does a lot of heavy lifting here, and I love that. Next up is going to be National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. This is probably the most important Christmas movie to my family. Have I seen it the most, though? No, I haven't. We're still getting to that movie, believe it or not. The Christmas movie that I've seen the most, I'm saying, in my life. This is definitely going in B. I think it's one of the better Christmas movies. It's going to go right here. I personally like Jingle All the Way better, but I think that this movie is definitely more important to my family for sure. You've got Clark Griswold, right? The guy that just wants to do right for his family. He's going to get his Christmas bonus, right? But unfortunately, he's not getting his Christmas bonus. And all of a sudden, it feels like everything starts to unravel. His ideal Christmas, the Christmas lights aren't working, the dinner sucks, the family's being annoying, and there's just so many great gags in here. Uncle Eddie stops by for, out of the blue. It kind of plays off the original Vacation movie, which I adore. It's one of the most important movies to my life, actually. So this kind of, not a spin-off, but sort of like a sequel that's holiday themed. And next up, we've got the movie that I've definitely seen the most in my entire life. The Christmas film that I've seen the most in my entire life. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I haven't seen this one in a while. I think I'm going to put it right here. Right at the top of B. I think, no, you know what? Hold on. Let me be serious. It's going to go right at the back of A. You're in Whoville, and you've got Jim Carrey acting his ass off. It does not get more Christmas than this. The reason I watched this movie so much is because I had it on DVD. Yeah, you guys could call me Unk, a throwback to physical media when people didn't just have streaming services all the time. This movie, I'd be playing it in the car during December. I would play it because I had like one of those things that kind of attached to like the back of the car seat, the passenger seat, and the driver's seat. I would play it in my house. I would play it at my grandma's house, my aunt's house. That DVD stayed on my body. This movie would be repeated over and over again. Even if I just wanted to watch a scene during Christmas time, I would pop it in. I'd watch, when he's with the dog and he's freaking out. I'd watch the dinner scene. I'd watch the ending. I would watch this movie to death. I love Jim Carrey so much. And again, I think there's just something about these comedic actors and Christmas that just really works well with my brain, because comedy and Christmas is such a hectic time, so I feel like it makes sense for them to go so well together. It's one of the all-time greats. It's also a very impressive film. It's a technically impressive movie, I've got to say. Next up's going to be A Christmas Story. This is a movie that I probably haven't seen in about 12 or 13 years, and I'm only 22, so honestly, that's not really helping my case. I'm going to put this in C. It's a classic, right? I'm going to put it right there. The only reason it's going here is because I haven't seen it in so long. It has the classic moments, right? Oh, you'll shoot your eye out. When he's beating up the bully, when he's going down the slide, all these different things. The leg lamp, right? The only reason it's going here is because I don't find it that memorable, and the reason I say that is because I barely even remember what this movie's about. Now, if I was to rewatch this movie could go up to A, but it can also go to F. I'm just not really sure where exactly to place it right now. But right now in my head, I'm like, you know what? That's a good Christmas classic, but I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys and act like I really love it, or like it's a super important film to my life personally during the Christmas time. And we're going to end off this video with probably my hottest take. The Polar Express is one of the worst Christmas movies ever. I'm going to put it right above Feast of the Seven Fishes. I'm sure that this movie was technically impressive at the time. It broke barriers for animation. But this movie is one of the ugliest looking movies to ever be made. It looks like it's made in Madden with Madden graphics, and I'm talking about like Madden 14 or Madden 13. Madden 14 isn't a thing, but Madden 13 or Madden 12. This is a horrible looking film. I used to like it as a kid, but I rewatched it like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, what am I looking at here? It's kind of creepy to me, honestly. It kind of has the same Rudolph thing to me, and you guys could call me a scaredy cat, we'll just say, but I just don't like this film. I don't really get anything out of it. He's, jingling the little bell. I don't really get a lot out of it. I like, the hot chocolate scene, right? Tom Hanks plays like 4 characters in this movie. I don't really like our main protagonist. I think some of the kids are really annoying in this, and when kids are annoying in movies, it really it hits a certain nerve in my brain that just makes me go crazy. So, yeah, this film, not my favorite. Also, there's that one really scary scene with like all the puppets and stuff. Not for me, man. Not for me. I love the Christmas movies. As you guys can see from this relatively positive list that we've got going on here, it's all going upwards. I really love Christmas movies, but yeah, this one's not for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoy your Christmas again for those who celebrate, and just happy holidays for those of you that don't. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.